In the world of modern medicine, we're actually feeling more sick. We have more symptoms, more complaints, and our energy is just not what it could be. Well, my guest today, Pedram Shojai, is a filmmaker and a doctor of Oriental medicine. And he's here to talk to us about why we just can't seem to pull it together and have that vitality that we need to have in our lives. Pedram, thanks for being here.
Great to be here.
So you've made two movies, Origins and Vitality. What's going on with people today in their wellness?
I think it's an access issue more than anything. Is we have a barrage of information coming. We all know we should probably eat better. We know we should exercise. We've tried some things, they didn't work. But we've lost that comprehensive top-down view of what it's all about. And so in the old days, you'd go to the wise man or the medicine man or woman, and it would be about the integration of mind, body, and spirit, and just the totality of our being. And today there's a specialist for everything, and you go to the doctor and you get some blood work and they send you for more blood work, and then you go to this specialist and they disagree with the other one, and you can spend 2 months trying to figure something out, and at the end of the day you still don't have an answer, you still don't feel well. And it's a product of how complicated our world has gotten, and also possibly how toxic our world has gotten.
I think that's really an important point, because not only are our environments toxic, but we also have issues with medicines that don't agree with our systems. I mean, everything's layering on top of each other. How can we navigate through all of that?
Yeah, it's really hard to take the complexity and try to solve it with more complex solutions. So my take over the years, and believe me, I've tried pushing things uphill, has been to simplify first and say, okay, why don't we go back to when things were easier and were working better for us, and go back to cleaner food, cleaner air, cleaner water. Let's just get all these chemicals we can't pronounce out of our systems. Let's stop doing the additives. Let's stop doing these other things. And there's a certain amount of benefit that you'll see pretty quickly with that. And then from there, yeah, sure, there's things that happen, there's disease processes and all that. But once you take that layer of toxicity and burden off the body, then the body has a fighting chance. You have vitality, and with that vitality, you start to see improvement.
Now, you are a unique individual. You studied biology at UCLA, but you're also a Taoist monk, a Kung Fu master, so you integrate spirituality and wellness. What is the role of spirituality and wellness?
Without spirituality, and it could be whatever flavor of spirituality you need for yourself, what's the point of any of it, really? And so we have such a lack of meaning in our lives and our existence, and it's all about keeping up with, you know, the technology and all the stuff that's happening, and the Middle East is blowing up and everything causes cancer, and so there's no context, and without context there's really no reason to do the things that you know you ought to do. There's no passion, there's no dream, there's no drive to serve. And so I think the way we've fragmented our reality, and people have kind of fallen off, you know, people have fallen off religion, people have lost their way. And without that, you have all these discombobulated clinics and doctors and experts, and they're all trying to tell you should lose weight so you could be more attractive. And none of it is really connected with the passion. And without that, we're kind of lost.
So let's talk about our emotions and our thoughts and our energy. How does that impact our health?
Oh, it's everything. Vitality is this glow that comes from within. When the body is doing well, when it's full of energy, you can see it in someone. You can see it in someone's eyes. It's like, wow, there's something radiant about that person. And that's not the stuff that's being talked about in doctors' clinics. It's about abatement of symptoms. It's about trying to bring down the really big kind of like smoke alarms, if you will. And that's not what gets us up in the mornings, right? And so when we talk about energy and the mind being all kind of linked up, that's when we're whole, that's when we're powerful, and that's when we stand for injustice. That's when we get up and do things that are bigger than us, instead of going to some humdrum 9-to-5 job and coming home and watching TV and calling that life. Like, yawn, who, you know, of course that's not interesting.
We see it so many times today. People become defined by their diagnosis. You know, I'm depressed, that's the definition of who I am, or I have a certain disease. And we get that label in our lives, and then everything else evolves around this medical identity. Can we talk about that?
It's a lot of medical cursing, if you will. We now understand why you don't feel well. It's because
Right.
you have this. You're like, oh, well, I have that thing. And that's it. You start going down this spiral. You have that with people who've been misdiagnosed with some terminal disease, and they start dying, right? They just give up. And so it is something that, look, doctors are trying to help, but it's something we need to look at culturally in how we really bring the mind and the spirit back into our holistic view of health and medicine, so that we can inspire people to take an active role. Because I think in the last several decades, the better living through chemistry model and all these kind of things that have defined how medicine is here to fix things has really fallen on its face. And so personal responsibility fell off, and now we understand that it is lifestyle. It's how we live that's going to determine the quality of our life and our health in a lot of ways.
I think you raise a really important point that personal responsibility is a major factor in our own health. I mean, how much are we responsible for how we feel, even if we in fact have a disease?
It's everything. I mean, every choice you make, every time you reach for a food, every time you decide to either nourish your cells or poison them, if you decide to get that sleep that your body's asking for, or go out, for a drink with the guys, it's every little decision will nudge us towards either more vitality or not. And when the body lacks vitality, it doesn't have the resilience to fight disease. It doesn't have the resilience to keep us moving in the right direction, which is towards more life and growth and abundance and all the things that makes life pretty good.
So what made you decide to make the movie Origins?
Well, we'd made the Vitality movie, and the Vitality movie really struck a chord. And it was really kind of looking at lifestyle and what that has to do with the medical model, which is really a sick care model. And in Origins, we said, well, look, we were doing pretty well. We got to the top of the food chain because we used our brains and we developed, and we were really adapting to this natural environment well. And in the last couple hundred years, things started going in a different direction. And so what was then, and how were we living, and what did stress look like? What did food look like? What did life look like? And what's different now? And how can we maybe go back to our origins in how we live and just get a little more simple and pure in that lifestyle, and then start layering on and thinking about our society in a way that doesn't snuff out nature and give us cancer and harm our bodies and all the things that we're dealing with in our modern world. So Origins was really, I went and tracked lions for 6 weeks in Africa and really learned how to survive in our primitive environment with our primitive technologies.
Right?
Got a few scratches, but they've mended. But it was amazing. It was exhilarating, and it brought me back to life, because there's nothing like getting close enough to a lion and realizing that life and death are really, kind of hinging on your next few moves to bring back your survival instinct and give you that taste of real life again.
So if you could select a couple specific takeaways that someone could just apply in their life today, what would those be?
First of all, clean up your act. Just start looking at labels and start looking at things that you're consuming. And by consuming, I mean everything. I mean, not just the stuff that goes in your mouth, but topical skin stuff, makeup, household cleaners, all that stuff. If you look at why all of a sudden we're sick, you can't put your finger on it, because what if it's all of it?
Right.
And so just start simplifying ingredients. If you can't afford organic, just get broccoli, right? Even if it's not organic, just start simplifying your ingredients and things that go into your life, and that makes a world of difference. And then number two is really get back into what life is about. In a survival situation, really, it's about food, shelter, water, and fire. Those are the things that you need to survive. Everything else is a want. And we live in a culture that's inundated with advertising and marketing messages that are about wants, not needs. And so, oh my God, I feel so shamed that I don't look like that celebrity. And so I'm...
And they don't even look like that.
Oh my God, you should see how much airbrushing goes on.
Right.
And so there's just this really kind of vampirical thing about drawing us out and making us feel insecure and insufficient, so that we could keep spending money on stuff to keep the economy going. And I think it's time where we could just fundamentally relook at all that and say, look, this is nonsense. Let's, time with family, time with loved ones, hiking a mountain, all the simple things in life that make us happy are the things that don't really draw too much money for the economy and all the things that kind of keep us going as consumers. And we're miserable, we're less healthy, and we're running around just being crazy because of some model that isn't really serving us. And enough's enough.
You know, it's interesting when you go to the doctor today, and if you have something that is ailing you, they don't really go into lifestyle questions. They don't say, are you stressed? Are you depressed? Are you upset about a breakup or a job loss or some kind of transition in your life or your childhood for that matter? They just find the symptom and then prescribe some corresponding medication. So with your background as a Kung Fu master and a Taoist monk, let's talk about how to pull in that sacred self into our journey towards our own vitality.
Yeah, you know, the challenge, and God bless them, a lot of doctors out there, most of the doctors out there are really trying, and they're stuck inside of a model that's like, hey man, move on, right? You got 7 minutes, and so the algorithm is, if this problem, this solution, or I don't have time to deal with that right now, you need therapy, right? And so it's such a constrained model, and some of this stuff just takes time. It involves dialogue. It involves saying, well, maybe they're binge eating because they were abused as a child.
Right.
Maybe they have this problem because they have a lineage that came from Holocaust survivors, and just these really kind of deep psychological things.
Like energetic trauma.
Energetic trauma and psychological trauma, and just you know, kind of a genetic memory of things. And so there's a lot of us that have come from histories that need to still be healed. And so it's about the human story, it's about the narrative, it's about understanding how to go back in our history and kind of understand where we came from to understand who we are now. And our culture doesn't really inspire that. And the medical system really got taken over by big pharma, who funded a lot of research and came in and said, look, we understand that you're really busy, so if they come in with this is the drug. And so all these well-intentioned doctors kind of bit. And now they're waking up saying, wow, that totally doesn't work, right? And it certainly works for disease processes, but it doesn't work to heal people. It abates symptoms. It starts to move disease processes around, and it's costing us a fortune. So learning to teach people how to heal themselves, teach people how to fish, how to really understand how to care for ourselves is the medicine of the future, and it requires a fundamental rethinking, because doctors should be treating disease and illness, and there's plenty of it around. But how do we get in front of that and teach people how to live healthfully, to not end up in the MASH unit, is really the conversation for the future of medicine.
And I know you offer a lot of these conversations on your platform, well.org.
Yeah, I mean, we've been very busy. There's so much work to be done. There's a lot of beautiful stories, farm to table stories, and just
beautiful food.
Oh, beautiful food, beautiful lifestyle, things like living examples of things that are actually happening. People that are actually doing this stuff that can inspire all of us. And here's a person who's doing it. Why not you? And so our job has been to put our cameras on the good guys. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of work, because there's a lot of amazing stories of great people doing great things that inspire all of us, and we should all look at those things instead of really the idiots that are put on reality TV to approximate reality.
Yeah, I mean, my background in TV, it's spectacle leads. So if you're not creating a stir or a scene, you're just not going to be covered in mainstream media.
Yeah, and if it bleeds, it reads, and it's just not, it's a fabricated version of reality that generates drama and might get impact somewhere, but it's not real, and I don't think it's helpful, and that's why the internet's doing so well, because people want to find stories of authentic dialogue and people they could actually connect with.
Pedram Shojai, filmmaker, doctor, author, amazing healer, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Great to be here, thank you.